with Cromwell Media. And we have several folks celebrating their anniversary this month. From our sales department, Nicola Spencer celebrates 20 years. And Ted and Holly from our engineering department celebrate 14 years. If you're looking for a new career, reach out to us at together@cromwellmedia.com. Love what you do, love where you work.
Your sports live here. WBUZ HD3 Laverne. We are the Game Nashville Sports Network. ESPN 94.9. The Fan.
30 years of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee. It's the George Plaster Show, featuring Tennessee Sports Hall of Famers Kelly Holcomb and young gun Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome in. It's a beautiful Tuesday. May not last. Tomorrow, let's see what they're saying. Tomorrow, 80% chance of rain. So the likelihood is get done whatever you need to get done early in the day. The rain will start around noon. That's your forecast. Let's go to Murfreesboro and say hello to Kelly Holcomb. Kelly, how are you?
I'm a lot better now that I've got the weather report for tomorrow. Thanks,
Well,
George.
I knew you would be. So what are we wearing there?
Lipscomb, baby.
Ah, yeah.
Daughter had a game last night.
Mm-hmm.
Played really well. They beat the TSU Lady Tigers. Pretty good, too.
And you were there.
Shocked. Well, that's why I had to leave. I'm leaving today as well, but I'm going to get this phone situation figured out, man. I know I was in Uganda, is what you say and what Billy has told me. So it's going to be fixed today.
I've rethought it. I think you were in Somalia.
Really, I was off the coast of Africa. Huh? Sweet.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
we've got a solution for Kelly.
What is
where
that?
are you? Billy, where are you? Can you tell us?
I'm in a room.
Where?
Pretty plain, to be honest.
I mean, it's still better than Kelly's backdrop.
Yeah,
Billy,
I've got a nice shelf behind me.
Don't dodge the question, because I've got a question after this. Where are you? Tell everybody where you are.
I'm in a bedroom in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Okay, so when are we going to do something about this? Because if you're going to have a wedding, please don't invite me, because I'll have to tell you no. Okay.
You're not invited anyway.
Okay. Is down the road? Is that down the road here, Billy? What are we doing?
Just sit tight, Kelly. Relax, Francis.
Gosh. Wow.
Don't invite me, because I'm not going to buy him presents. Scrooge.
Oh,
No,
wow.
Just kidding. Okay, yeah, it's good to feel wanted, isn't it? So we begin the show every day during football season with Terry McCormick's Daily Titans Update. Hello, Terry. How are you?
Glad you could remember my name, George.
What are you wearing? What is
a black T-shirt?
Okay, it's not then what I thought it was.
What are you wearing, George?
I'm wearing a shirt.
He's wearing one of those he got out of the closet with mothballs from 1984.
Wow. It's not that old. I'm that old, but it's not that old. So Terry, obviously today's a day they don't do anything. They're not there. So what's the news?
Well, not really a lot of news other than the fact that they're getting ready to play the Minnesota Vikings, who obviously are a playoff caliber football team who have exceeded a lot of people's expectations this year. Sam Darnold has played really well for the Vikings, although he struggled a little bit of late with interceptions. The Titans probably would be wise to try and figure out how that trend could continue, because they have really struggled this season to get turnovers, only 6 all year. And then on the flip side of it, getting ready for the Vikings, Brian Flores coaches that Minnesota defense, and they are one of the most pressure-happy, blitz-happy defenses in the entire NFL. So that tells me that the Titans had better speed up Will Levis a little bit this week and, get him some hot reads and get him to take advantage of some one-on-one matchups that surely will be created with all this extra pressure that Minnesota is bringing.
Okay, you kind of beat me to the punch. A lot of what Flores does is bring everybody to the line of scrimmage, and then you've got to figure out who's backing off, who do you have to block. It's really a good scheme he's put together.
Yeah, and that's going to confuse a lot of quarterbacks, young or old, and I think that's the task for Brian Callahan and Will Levis and Nick Holtz, the offensive coordinators, to try and show him as much as they can about what to look for with this when he sees this pre-snap read, what to look for when he sees that pre-snap read, and then still there's a little bit of judgment calls that Levis is going to have to make under duress, because what you saw the last time may not be what you see this time. And so you've got to make sure that you know exactly where your hot reads are and how to get out of some of these situations, maybe even how to audible out of some of those situations. Kelly's certainly been in those type of dilemmas before. How tough is it when there's a blitzing defense? You just have to know where the hot read is all the time?
You gotta study film quite a bit, Terry. You really do. I can remember sitting up hours watching the Pittsburgh Steelers defense and the Baltimore Ravens defense, because they did so much with Dick LeBeau when he was at Pittsburgh, and they had an odd front. They'd make it an even front. They'd take the two backers and they'd walk them around. And it'll mess you if you're not really on with your protection, it will mess you up. And you just have to watch film. And a lot of times I tell younger guys, body language tells a lot. So you're watching stuff. If you know a guy's body language, you know he's coming or he's not. And it totally looks different. But sometimes in a game, it gets confusing. And if you're not honed up on your protections, it can cause a lot of havoc.
Well, that's not a strong suit of the Titans in the first place, is protection. They've had issues with it all year long. We saw it again on Sunday with 7 sacks. Some of that obviously can be pinned on Levis for holding on to the football too long in certain matters, but still the right side of that offensive line has been a sieve, especially at right tackle. And this is not the team to try to be finding, experimenting and trying to figure out solutions there. They're going to have to find some kind of remedy for that, whether it's max protecting more or whatever, but they're going to have to do something.
Terry, the third quarterback in this deal is Trevor Siemian, who once was a starter in Denver for a short time, kind of a year and a quarter. So what is the rule about how many times you can make him active?
He can be called up 3 times before he has to be promised to sign to the active roster. They've used all 3 of his call-ups. So if he comes back to the roster anymore this year, they'll have to add him to the 53-man roster or pass him through waivers to get him back to the practice squad.
Good Lord. Too many rules.
Yeah, that's a lot of rules.
Good Lord. Terry, you've done well.
All right. Have a good
Appreciate it, as always. Terry McCormick, Main Street Media and TitanInsider.com with his daily Titans update. Billy.
We've got some meat on the bone today, George, and it's brought to you by Lori Burnett Leland. You can find her online at mortgageladiusa.com or give her a call, 615-969-4350. The Preds lose to the Avalanche last night, 3-2 in overtime. Big turnover from Brady Shea in overtime that led to Gerard's breakaway goal, former Pred. But a big stat last night, George, they were outshot 17-6 in the third period and overtime. This team just doesn't know how to win right now.
No, getting a point in Colorado is not all bad. It was certainly better than what we have been seeing. It's still a loss, but at least it's a 1-point go to overtime situation.
At Edmonton on Thursday night. So the Preds continue their road trip. Last night, Dolphins beat the Rams 23-15. The Dolphins don't look now. They've got Tua back. They're 3-6, 1.5 games behind the Broncos for the 7th seed. Nervous about Tua, though. I mean, I think he threw an interception, had a couple of turnovers last night, and tried to make a head-on tackle low on a player. I mean, Kelly, he's going to get hurt again. I mean, after an interception like that, I don't know why he would want to try to go that low and lead with his head on a tackle.
I don't know either. It's one of those deals. It's kind of like Will Levis when he's running around and he lowers his shoulder to run over everybody in the stands and everybody on the sideline holds their breath. It's like with Tua, when he gets just touched, everybody's holding their breath because they're not sure. He's had so many concussions, and I don't know. I would not put my head in there. I'm just going to try to hold on to somebody. I'm going to try to make a tackle like a girl, and I am not going to stick my head in there if I'm him.
Well, there's always the Canadian Football League for you, Kelly.
Well, that's what Tom Moore told me. He said, son, you went to Cleveland, then to Buffalo, then to Minnesota. The next stop was the Canadian Football League. And I said, nope, not for me, y'all.
Well, the offensive coordinator job for the Bears is not for Shane Waldron. He is out in Chicago. Thomas Brown, whoever that is, takes over. And apparently, it's getting ugly already in Chicago with Caleb Williams and his offensive line, and he already wants out, it seems.
Well, it feels like it's just a matter of time as to whether Matt Eberflus gets fired during the season or after the season, because they have put all their eggs in Caleb Williams' basket. Does this sound familiar? And so far, Kelly, and it's early, not happening.
Not happening. I just can't believe that Eberflus is still the coach. He's been hanging on by a thread for how many years? 2 years now? I still can't believe he's there, and I just don't know. Like, Caleb Williams is an unbelievably talented guy, but is he the guy that can lead your team? Like, does he seem like a big leader to you guys?
No. And I think that's a big problem. He had those issues at USC. I mean, he kind of had some of the. Is this guy really an NFL quarterback? Is he built to be an NFL quarterback? And I mean, he's really talented, but it doesn't feel like he has the important intangibles, George.
Well, a lot of the things that made him great in college will get you killed in the NFL. His ability in college to keep a play alive.
Yeah.
Extend. Thank you. And that ability was great in college.
It's just not there in the NFL.
Well, it'll get you killed.
Right.
And I think he's learning that right now. Like Will Levis, he's holding on to the football too long. New England had 6-7 quarterback sacks in the game Sunday. They were not at all competitive against a New England team that frankly isn't very good.
No. Also, in the college ranks, Jerry Faust, who was famously plucked from an Ohio high school to become Notre Dame's coach in 1981, passed away yesterday at the age of 89. He had no coaching experience before replacing Dan Devine. He coached at Notre Dame from 81 to 85. Mediocre career. He did make a 1983 Liberty Bowl with the Irish, but pretty cool story. And I know there's a lot of Irish fans that really appreciate what he did.
Well, he had no college coaching experience. He was hired straight out of high school. And I've never heard what the thought process was, but it's a recipe for stupid.
Can you imagine that happening today?
No, I can't.
You would be on ESPN and Sports Center for a 24-hour period constantly.
There have been a couple that have done it. Todd Dodge at North Texas.
Mike Holmgren started out in high school.
Trent Dilfer.
Hugh Freeze.
UAB.
Hugh Freeze.
Yeah. But going from high school to a head coaching job in college, that has got to be a tough transition.
But much less, Notre Dame. I can see it happening now. There's probably some Texas high school coaches in the South that could go coach at, Jacksonville State, a Sun Belt school, Conference USA, but I mean, to coach a Power 5 school with zero experience that's incredible.
Yeah.
Also, former USC and Rams head coach John Robinson passed away at the age of 89. I think that was this morning.
Last night. He
night?
was Jeff Fisher's college coach.
Yes.
And I know that John Robinson was thought of at the highest level as far as what people thought of him.
I saw him, and people talk about him as one of the better coaches to coach, head coaches to be at the college and NFL level, to succeed in both levels.
Yeah, he coached the Rams for, I want to say, 8 or 9 years. He was Eric Dickerson's coach with the Rams, I think. I think that's right.
I think so too. Yep.
Well, the SEC, this was actually yesterday, missed it, but the SEC fined Ole Miss and LSU. Ole Miss $350,000, LSU just $250,000 for incidents involving fans during Saturday's games. Ole Miss stormed the field with 16 seconds left, so obviously that was a mess. And Lane Kiffin was actually, they had the camera on him, and he was like, "This is ridiculous." So he knew, but it's not. I mean, the money goes to Georgia, so that's I think why Lane Kiffin might be upset. But also LSU fans threw bottles and debris on the field at a late
How do you
in
stop
Alabama
fans
game.
from doing that though? I don't understand how you stop fans from doing that unless you don't give them anything. I don't understand why they're doing that to the schools. I get it, but like, how can you stop them if they've paid for a ticket? If they want to act stupid, then they're going to act stupid.
Well, about the only real deterrent you have is to catch somebody throwing something and ban them. And ban them.
Ban them. Right.
And good luck with that.
Yeah.
You do that at some of these MAC games, you won't have anybody left.
That's $1 million now in fines this season for the SEC. Also,
well, it just means more.
Yeah, absolutely. The USC football program has been fined $50,000 and placed on 1-year probation due to a violation of on and off field coaching activities. The NCAA found that USC exceeded the permissible number of countable coaches by 6 in the last couple of years.
So the message to be learned is if you cheat, it's 1/7, Kelly, of getting caught throwing debris.
Correct. Good
wow.
gracious.
What are we doing?
I mean, what are we doing?
Well, I think people are wondering what Bill O'Brien's doing at Boston College. He announced a change at quarterback. Grayson James is in for Thomas Castellanos, and Castellanos is not happy about it. He is up and basically quit the team. He's taken a leave of absence for the next few days. Coach O'Brien said Tommy's done a great job for us. Obviously, he wasn't real thrilled with that, so he's taken a couple of days away from the team.
So when I've seen him, he's quick as a hiccup. I haven't seen them enough to know, has he played all that poorly?
I'm not sure either, George. I just know that I heard this from somebody else, that now these kids are saying, I need a mental break. What are we doing? Where have we become what have we become in our society where a kid can just say, "Hey, I need a mental break. I don't feel up to par." Okay, well, go ahead, Johnny. You can go ahead and take 3 or 4 days off.
Come back. You want.
Hey, you'll have your position back, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Good gracious.
Don't let George talk mean about you.
That's right.
All right, couple of MLB pieces. Tropicana Field is structurally sound and can be repaired for about $55.7 million in time for the 2026 season. Major League Baseball wants the Rays to remain in the area, though, George, with several Tampa Bay area spring training sites suggested. So no Nashville.
That'll go over well. One of the things about a dome in that area is, help me with this, doesn't it rain a ton down there during the day?
During the summer, you're going to get at least one during the heat of the day, and then it's going to get hotter than it was. So it's every day.
Also,
okay.
catcher Travis d'Arnaud and the Angels are in agreement on a 2-year, $12 million contract.
Oh, I hate hearing that. Now, I get Ron Washington is the manager, the former Braves third base coach. This is a decision they may end up regretting. Travis d'Arnaud was really good a year ago. Sean Murphy didn't hit his weight, and that became a big problem for their lineup.
He's old
Look,
reliable.
I wish d'Arnaud a lot of luck. He was really good with the Braves.
That's all I got.
Yeah, that's a little depressing.
Yeah, did you know
Okay, I had not seen that.
You talk about breaking news. This
Yeah,
update,
thank you.
man.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for sharing it. Okay, after the break, we'll be joined by Tony Basilio. He'll come on with us from Knoxville to talk some University of Tennessee stuff, including the big game Saturday in Athens against the Georgia Bulldogs, some of whom are not rooting for the Georgia Bulldogs. This is 94.9, The Fan.
It was the most horrible experience that any mother could ever go through. I knew that I needed to get help. My friend, she immediately said, "You need to call Bart Durham." And you guys were there within an hour. You guys are like family for us.
Yeah, sure is nice to connect with the people that you're doing your best to help.
It's easy to say good things about the folks at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers. Number one, I trust them with something that's near and dear to me, the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. But more importantly, I see the fun people have. They enjoy the bowling, they enjoy the camaraderie, and you will too. Come by any of their locations and get ready to have some fun.
Venture Express has been helping people in this area for more than 40 years. They're headquartered in Murfreesboro with over 30 years of dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
Is on the road for the first time this season on Thursday, taking on South Florida down in Tampa. Tip-off at 6, pregame coverage starts at 5:45.
Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan and the Game Nashville app. It's the George Plaster Show. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
We are back, and we're headed to Knoxville. We'll talk with Tony Basilio, Knoxville sports talk show host extraordinaire. Let's get him in the picture. There he is. Tony, how are you?
Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Oh, no.
We're
Billy,
gonna We're going to have to do the old leave the studio and then come back, Tony. I'm sorry.
Because Tony sounds like this. So
he sounded good to me. He sounded good to me. He wasn't good with y'all?
Not quite.
All right.
Yeah. But when he does come back, I've got a doozy of a first question for him.
Do you?
Oh, absolutely I do. So there he is. Tony, say hello again.
Hello again, everybody.
Hello again. Nice. So speculate for me on how the meeting went between Kirby Smart and the player who got caught at the end of the game celebrating with some Ole Miss students.
I mean, can you imagine? Would you want to coach today for all the tea in China?
Good Lord.
With some of these brain surgeons that are out there. I mean, just these guys make great money and good on them, but no thanks, man.
He's transferring to Ole Miss, Tony. He's transferring to Ole Miss. That's what he's doing. He's just getting ready.
Who knows? Maybe he thought to himself, hey, they look like they're having so much fun over there. I'm going to go join them. I put in a hard week's worth of work here, and I just want to go have some fun.
Let off a little steam.
There you go.
So conventional wisdom says that Tennessee is going to get Georgia's best. They're bound to be pissed off with the way they performed in Oxford. It's been a long time since they've gotten beaten around like that. Is that the way you see it?
Yeah, and I don't know what that even means for Georgia anymore. Today over at my website, over at tclub.team, I've got some rather bright people around me who were kind of helping me project what the survey is going to look like tonight when they release the survey. And right now we have Tennessee this week coming in at 5 overall, and Georgia being the first team out.
Now, when you say 5, are you saying 5 to play a 12 or just 5? Okay.
5 ranked 5, and then the Vols will be a 7 where they play Notre Dame, 7 versus 10. And I'm guessing what the committee's going to do tonight. That's kind of what we're trying to figure out is where they're going to have this. I think Georgia's the first team out. And look, as if Georgia needed any more incentive, it kind of harkens back to 24 months ago when the Dogs, in fact, had a situation where Tennessee went in there ranked number 1 in that first showing of the survey. That was 2 years ago. And that did not help Tennessee's cause that night. This is a different Georgia team. This is a Georgia team that just doesn't have a lot of playmakers.
Okay, now take a look.
Yeah.
Because certainly when I put this out here, the world needs to listen. I am with you that Georgia is the first team out. I had Tennessee as an 8 versus Notre Dame at number 9. So we're all kind of in that ballpark of being close.
Yours would be bad news for the Vols because if the Vols lose Saturday and there are a glut of 10-2 teams, Tennessee would want to be ranked ahead of Indiana tonight just to have an outside shot to climb in there ahead of Indiana at the end. Because Indiana's going to lose to Ohio State. I think we all kind of know that. But you know, an 11-1 Indiana team, a 10-2 Tennessee team. Some people think the SEC will get 5 and the Big Ten would get 3. I would not hold my breath on that since both of these leagues are the main culprits in putting this thing together. And I think both of these leagues are going to take 4 teams at the end of the day, barring the unforeseen. But the point remains, Georgia is going to be their fan base will be well heeled for this thing on Saturday night, George.
Nighttime, extra time to, shall we say, imbibe.
Oh, no question. No question.
So if Tennessee loses at Georgia. For a week, are they booted out of the top 12?
That would be really interesting. I haven't thought that far ahead. Do they switch spots? Is it something like that? I don't know. I guess from a Tennessee perspective, it would make for a white knuckle situation here if that next survey comes out. The Vols are 10-2, and they're not in next week's survey. I think the committee's telling us how they're thinking. They did last week anyway. And it'll be really interesting. Hopefully for the Vols, they don't have to cross that bridge because Georgia, at the end of the day, this is a Georgia team that's very beatable, extremely beatable. In fact, this is a team not playing well. This is a team doesn't have playmakers. This is a team with a quarterback who is going to get a NIL deal very soon with Pepperidge Farm for their apple turnovers. Which I understand are pretty good at this time of the year, but
very nice.
To go with his Lamborghini, I just hope he doesn't spill any of that, shall we say, juice from the turnovers in his Lamborghini. Kelly would know how hard that is to get that out of a fine automobile. I wouldn't.
You know what, Tony? The other day, he was laughing on the sideline, and I told George and Billy, I said, he's laughing because he knows the charade's up. He's got to give the Lamborghini back.
What do we think? What do we think has gone on with Beck?
He doesn't have any players around him, and he's pressing. When you don't have players around you and start pressing, it's a bad formula. When you don't have players around you, you start pressing and you start throwing interceptions, and you get in your own head. This kid, first 10 minutes of that game the other night are going to be very important for him.
Oh, you're absolutely right, because they've got to set a tone very early in that game that what went on a week ago is an aberration and not who they really are, because that crowd will start to turn on them if it doesn't go well.
Yeah, and a lot of those people are Braves fans. I mean, they felt it in the postseason.
Wow. By the way, Tony, can you hear some cheering in the background up at your place?
Cheering?
Cheering.
Not really, no. Why?
Well, Alabama just scored again.
Yikes.
Wow.
Ooh,
wow.
Yeah. Go figure that one.
Hey, man, listen. In this league, you just don't know. And here's the thing. We're
crazy.
Sitting here and we're doing all these, these exercises. We should be. It's fun. Fun to talk about, fun to speculate. Anytime you get on the field in this league. Hey, Tennessee last week got really beat up. Really beat up with that Mississippi State team, George. Really beat up. Banged up, beat up. Mississippi State's supposed to be the worst team in the league.
But they've gotten better.
They really hit. Both those teams were really hitting each other.
Kelly, you've been sitting here listening to all this brain science. I know there are things going on in your head. You look very alert, very focused.
I just want to know, am I into it, Tony? Am I into
Kelly,
it today? Do you think so?
Kelly, you look great. Your body language says put me in, coach, and I love that.
So let me ask you this. The other night, Nico got a little banged up. Supposedly, do we know that he had a concussion? And if he had a concussion, then how can we come out 2 days later and say he's fine?
It's Josh Heupel. It's what these guys do. It's not going to matter till you see till Thursday nights. Thursday night's report is the one they have to be honest on. So tomorrow they'll probably play a game on their Wednesday one. I believe he suffered a concussion. Yes. People I've talked to. And we talked about it immediately after the game on the post-game show. That now, do we know the severity of it? No, I don't. I do know that based on the return to play protocol they have, that he would at minimum have to be out till Wednesday in terms of practice, and then on Thursday Wednesday night would be the earliest he could be cleared, or Wednesday afternoon, however that goes. But there are two different hurdles you have to get over now if you go into protocol, which the first one is they hook you to a machine and just make sure everything's okay. They're doing that now in locker rooms, which I think is a good thing, by the way. They actually have a way to measure what's going on. And then the second is the cognitive test. So there are two hurdles. If, in fact, he did suffer a concussion, which I believe he did, and many media people here believe he did, and most people that I think cover the team believe he did, if not everybody, then you would have a circumstance or a situation where whose decision is it if he plays this weekend? You know, if he gets cleared, right? If he gets cleared, you know, and you're his family, and do they want him playing? I don't know. It's very, very, I mean, you have a kid that plays. It's very, 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 very tough when you start talking about these sorts of things. People ask me, do you think he's going to play? I have no idea.
Yeah.
And then they ask me, what was the severity of it? And I have no idea. But I do believe from talking to people that he suffered a concussion.
It's so crazy how this stuff has changed, though. I can remember back in 1991 when I had my first scrimmage in college and I got knocked out. And I remember Coach Donnelly and our trainer holding my hand, and they let me go because I was saying, let me go, and I almost fell over. And Coach Donnelly just started laughing at me. And then the next day, I was at practice. So it's amazing. Because they never said anything about concussions. They always had this picture of a guy up there, and they talked about ankle injuries and knee injuries and shoulder injuries and rib injuries, but they never said anything about concussions. And it's just amazing how this has changed. And I'm going to be honest with you. If he has a concussion or he had a concussion, I don't see how he plays Saturday.
Well, I guess we'll see. Again, the earliest is Wednesday. Thursday probably is when you're back. That's what I'm told. If it's minor, because you know concussions, as you know, are not a one size fits all thing.
Right.
You know, you can be moderately concussed, you can be severely concussed, which sounds like it's what happened to you, where you just go out.
I'm still concussed. I took this job with George, so I'm still concussed, Tony.
Long-term ramifications.
My problem with coaches, the way they don't say anything at all these days, is it makes for a wrathful situation with fans toward their own players. Like a couple years ago, everybody was mad at Cooper Mays because they made it sound like he was going to play when he was never going to play at Florida. And I love this coach. Don't get me wrong, guys. I think he's done great things. I think he's a pretty good guy. He's just in a profession where everything is triply secretive, and they give nothing up. And I'm not sure that's a service to your kids. I don't know. It's something I wrestle with.
Okay, so this question here is, I don't know if it's dumb or whatever, but it's a hypothetical. And I asked George and Billy this yesterday, but Roy Kramer a long time ago started this SEC championship game, and everybody kicked off with it. And right now, if you look at the SEC, everybody's rooting, like Alabama, obviously not Georgia, but Texas A&M, all these other teams are looking for Tennessee to, you know, they want them to beat Georgia in Athens so they can go to the SEC championship. All these other teams don't want to go to the SEC championship. They've already got 2 losses, and they can't afford to go and let Texas beat them again if that happens. So you're wanting that. So just tell me this. We never thought that football would be where it is 3 years ago, where it is today. So it's a big money maker. We all know that. But do you think that, and you just talked about how, you know, the Big Ten and the SEC is kind of driving this 12-team playoff deal. Do you ever think that they'll sit down and they'll reconsider these championship games due to this 12-game series?
No way.
Okay.
No, and here's why. Those games are going to do unbelievable ratings.
Yeah, I get it. Okay.
Unbelievable. And as long as television wants them, they're going to keep playing them. The question becomes, though, let's say Tennessee goes to Georgia and loses this weekend. What that does is that opens the door for Alabama to play either Texas or Texas A&M.
Oh, yeah.
Let's say Alabama goes and they play Texas, okay? Let's say Alabama loses that game. and now they're sitting there with a third loss. I don't think so. I don't know. Yeah, and here's why. I don't know that these conference commissioners want to make it punitive if they're going to keep these games. I argue they ought to be gone.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't guarantee that because they don't want to disincentivize teams appearing in these things. I mean, the more I think about it, plus Alabama's a huge brand name. They're a team people are used to seeing in the sport. Now, it could be there's some Alabama exhaustion, some Alabama fatigue, and you might do better numbers if you put somebody else in that spot, say a Tennessee, somebody like that, because I think it could come down to the Vols or Alabama in that scenario if things hold. Of course, there's a ton of football between now and the end of the season, here, there, and everywhere. And one thing we learned about this league, we saw it last week with Miami and Georgia Tech, there are screwy results week in and week out in this deal, and there will be leading up to it. So it's going to be a lot of fun, though. It's fun to talk about this stuff.
Oh, it's a great season. It's been a blast. Kelly, did I butt in on another question?
No, you didn't. I was just going to ask with the we talked about it before the year started. They didn't have a deal for the tiebreaker, but they're about to have to figure this tiebreaker stuff out here because there's going to be a lot of teams with 2 losses. And how do you do it? I mean, what are they going to do?
Well, they've published it. It's like an 8-leg tiebreaker. They published it like, I don't know.
July.
After they were in Birmingham, like 2.5 weeks after that, right before the season, they finally came correct with their tiebreaker. Look, I just think at the end of the day, when you've got a league that's this big and not everybody's playing everybody or not even close to it, you're going to have several years where teams are going to end up with a glut at the top because these teams are paying more. And some of these teams are going to cycle in and cycle out. The Floridas, Tennessees, Auburns of the world go in and out. Alabama's going to go in and out some years. Georgia's going to go in and out. All those teams at the top, the Texas schools, the LSUs, I think at the end of the day, there's going to be 4 slots there for them. And 4 slots for the Big Ten. That's my belief till I see otherwise.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the 2 leagues that drew this thing up. There are people out there saying an 11-1 Indiana team won't go to the playoff. I don't believe that. I just don't believe that.
I don't either. Okay, who replaces Bob Kessling?
I don't know, George. Have you put your name in? I think they might go outside the Tennessee family. Do you have any interest in that?
I think that would look good on the resume. Former voice of Vanderbilt.
Hey, Philip Fulmer started his coaching career
He sure
at Vanderbilt.
did. He was at Vandy when I was in school.
There you go.
So does Stan? Well, okay. Obviously, Mike Keith and Wilkerson, John Wilkerson's name, are 2 of them. Does Stan Cotton at Wake Forest get any discussion?
I don't know. I'll tell you this with Danny White. It would not surprise me to see him be the first guy that goes outside when it comes to that hire, simply because that's what he does.
It's a big hire.
No
doubt.
At
a school like that with a statewide base,
yes,
that's one you might not want to screw up.
That Vol network is a really well-oiled, well-run machine through time. They've never had a non-Tennessee graduate calling games. That has not happened here.
I would suggest he not break tradition.
He's a wild card. Anything's possible.
It's still sponsored by the Insurers of Tennessee.
You can just hear John Ward, can't you?
And by your Philco dealers. Milk's the one. Natural gas.
Natural gas, yes.
That's awesome.
You got that,
Still
Kelly?
hear that lady's voice in my
I do.
John
That's
Ward,
awesome.
man. But I'll tell you this about Bob Kessling. Bob Kessling's done a lot of good in this community for a lot of people. And the thing about Bob Kessling is nobody walking into that thing wanted that gig.
No.
And he took it and ran with it and made it his own. And 25 years later, the last time Tennessee replaced a play-by-play voice, they got to hold the crystal ball, George. That was John Ward's last football game. Will the same happen for Bob Kessling?
Wow. Here's part of the text I sent Bob Friday morning. Not many people could have replaced John Ward and carved out their own legacy. You did all of this with class and dignity. I know Paul Lyle is proud of you and your accomplishments. So am I. Paul was his teacher, broadcasting wise, and mine as well. We're about, I don't know, 5-6 years age wise difference, but really proud of him and proud for him. This is, apparently the end of a really good career.
Well, it's a Hall of Fame career, in every sense of the word. And a guy that did it on local television, a guy that did it on regional television back in the day before we had this proliferation of cable. He was a part of those packages that used to appear on people's UHF stations back in the, what was the old conglomerate of stations called? That was that Jefferson Pilot? Is that right?
Jefferson Pilot.
Ooh, yeah.
Hey, but you've forgotten, for a year, he and I did Nashville Sounds games together on television.
Well, something that will appear way down toward the bottom of his.
Oh, I think
Kelly, come on, Kelly.
I think it's a lot like a lot of them. Lee Fowler was my color guy at Memphis State. It's not on his resume, nor should this be on Kessling's. Okay. How can they hear you Saturday night around midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock?
Yeah.
God only knows when.
I'm at tclub.team, and I'm highly dedicated. The other day, George, we did a basketball post-game show and a football post-game show on the same day. The Vols had a game at Louisville. I was at a tailgate, George, and got thrust into duty. I was getting ready to play music with my band at a tailgate in downtown Knoxville. We had a 3-hour gig. And so I had to bring my radio equipment with me, slap the headphones on, do like a 50-minute post-game show, take some calls, that whole deal, and then get on and then play music and then come home, fall asleep for like 15 minutes, watch the Tennessee game, stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning.
Hey, Billy.
William, hey, hold on. Young William needs your address because he's going to send you a wedding invitation. He's hot and heavy in Pittsburgh.
Wow.
Kelly just spreading the good news, huh?
Are you getting married, Billy?
Not anytime soon.
What?
Kelly, you need to zip it, Kelly.
Who's the lucky lady?
I'll tell you later.
Lucky, all right.
I'll tell you when I get up to Knoxville.
Right.
Thank
wow.
you guys.
Send your
I'll
resume.
need a new job.
Send
Kelly,
your resume and do it now.
George, I'm not so sure. I wouldn't like to see Kelly more unplugged now in these segments.
Oh, my God. We don't need.
I mean,
Trust
what are
me.
we doing, Kelly? Don't do that to poor Billy.
Hey, I love Billy. That's why I do it. If I didn't like him, I wouldn't talk to him. You know what I'm saying? I got to give him a little rousing. He's hot and heavy, though, right now. He goes up to Pittsburgh every other week. I mean, what are we doing? What is she doing?
You've turned this into the dating game. All we need now is Bob Eubanks.
Good for you.
Tony,
Yeah, George, are you going to do something about this?
Yeah, I'm going to a break.
Guys, thanks.
Hey,
Preds.
thank you.
Go Preds. See you guys.
See you in 2 weeks.
Bye.
We'll go to the break. This is 94.9, The Fan. Are you concerned about the Medicare Part D changes for 2025? Believe me, you're not alone. You need to contact Pancos Benefits. They'll make the changes clear and easy to understand. Trust Pancos to guide you through it all. Their knowledgeable team is here to help you understand the updates and make informed decisions about your Medicare coverage. Don't navigate these changes alone. Call Pancos Benefits today at 615-292-3400 and choose option 3, or visit pancosbenefits.com. That's 615-292-3400 and choose option 3. This is my buddy Stan Harrison from Apple Collision Centers. Recently, you've been talking to me about companies that have a fleet of trucks and they're always in need of repairs.
That's right, George. We understand that nobody likes to deal with the auto body repair process. We try to simplify that at our 3 convenient locations. We work with all major insurance companies. We help to ease the stress of the auto body repair process. We're located in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. If you need our services, please stop by and see us.
And how convenient that we have that in the background. Now, seriously, these are good folks. They do really good work. Give them a holler.
You were in a crash.
Yeah.
Your kids were in the car with you.
We're very lucky to even be telling this story to you. Nikki treated us like family, and she was very caring and loving, and I'm just so grateful for that. She was somebody I could trust, and being a veteran, that's so important to me. My kids are going to have a better life now because I don't have to worry about those expenses that we were out. Your family has really created a legacy of trust, and I would recommend you to anyone.
Over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormone deficiencies and imbalances, and Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and wife Daphne, along with their experienced staff, give men the treatment required to improve their quality of life, improve your immune system, energy level, cognitive function, and more. There's no better time to achieve a healthy lifestyle. What are you waiting for? Give Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment at 615-486-3458 or visit the website coolspringsmd.com.
High interest rate or cash back on check card purchases when you meet some e-banking qualifications. Visit your closest Wilson Bank and Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC.
Two total screw-ups of humongous proportions.
Sports. We're not living in an era where perfection is necessary.
They thought they were a championship contending team.
Here, we told you not to do this. Your sports live here.
On ESPN 94.9.
And the Game Nashville Sports Network.
It's the George Plaster Show.
Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
Okay, we are back. Kelly, you sort of picked up on something that I brought up yesterday. I was shocked when I heard Josh Heupel say everything's fine with Nico, because that's a 2 days later, everything's fine. Now, look, I'm no expert on concussions, but that's not what the doctors are telling us.
No, and they don't. It's a disease, or it's a happening that happens to the brain that everybody heals differently, George. So it's like a disease. Everybody heals on their own time. And if he had a concussion, if he truly had a concussion last Saturday, then like I said to Tony, I don't see how you play, even if it's a mild concussion. Like you've got to sit down. Like sometimes you have headaches, sometimes your vision's messed up.
Sure.
They want you to sit in a dark room. You have to wear glasses. I don't know the severity of it. I don't think anybody, even the doctors, know the severity of it. But like if you're showing these symptoms that you have, I just don't. If he had a concussion, I don't see how he plays Saturday. That's just me. But I guess we'll see what happens. I'm not sure.
They can't win without him.
That's what I was going to ask Tony too. I was like, who comes in if Nico can't play? Like everything kind of hinges in today's sports world with all this NIL stuff and this transfer. Everything's hinging on the starting quarterback, and you cannot keep a adequate guy behind you. Now, he may be young, he may be adequate, but I just like if he doesn't win or if he doesn't play, I don't think they can win. I'm not sure they can win with him in Georgia and Athens. I'm kind of like Tony, though. Like this Georgia team is not the Georgia team that we've seen of late. They've shown some weaknesses in their game, and they've shown how they can go to Texas and dominate Texas, but then the other day just don't play very good at Ole Miss. And I think it's an up and down cycle, and I think I've said it over and over again. I think it's not only Georgia, but I think it's every team in the country. I don't know how a coach can mold a team together when you've got so many new kids coming in each and every year. And I think it's going to be an up and down struggle for these guys to find some consistency with their teams.
Billy, what level is London Humphreys playing at right now? The Vandy transfer?
Not much. He really hasn't been a factor. He had something. He had some sort of sickness earlier in the season.
Didn't he have mono?
Yeah, mono. That's what it was. He has not been much of a factor at all.
Because so if you have mono, you have to sit down because you have to sit out a little bit because if your spleen starts enlarging, you've got to sit out the rest of the year and they got to do something. So that's kind of a tricky deal. I remember having mono and I played through it. They said mine didn't enlarge. So, but I wonder if of course he has that, but I wonder if he wished he would have stayed at Vanderbilt.
Yeah. I mean, it's like right now, I doubt he had envisioned Vanderbilt winning 6 games this year and him. Maybe not even. I don't even know if he has 6 catches at Georgia this year.
Yeah.
I don't guess there's anything in the rules that says the team you left can't then approach you a year later.
Right. I wouldn't be surprised if he wants to come back, but I wonder. I don't know. I wonder how that works with Vandy if he does say he wants to come back.
Well, I think they would die to have him. Great kid, and had he been 100% healthy, he would have helped because here's one of the things they're missing. The best tight end in college football. Brock Bowers was the security blanket. He was Gronkowski, maybe not size-wise, but for Tom Brady, that became an insurance policy. Same thing at Georgia with Brock Bowers. They don't have him anymore.
And Ladd McConkey, who was playing with the LA Rams last night. So that guy was a player too. So that's 2 playmakers that you got. And Tony talked about it. They don't have those guys now.
Here's the thing I think we can all believe going in. Tennessee is going to have to weather an early storm. That crowd is going to create a lot at game time. If you remember 2 years ago, Georgia hit them with an atomic bomb that Tennessee never really recovered from, and that's what they got to worry about in this game. If they're close early, they could take that thing to the wire, and who knows what happens.
I think Tennessee can win that game. I mean, if Nico plays, but again, this is all about Nico. Let's be real. If Nico can play and feels okay enough to be effective, Tennessee can definitely win, but with Gaston Moore, good luck.
Yeah.
With Nico being the guy though, if Georgia's got those pass rushers, and if they can pin their ears back and they can start hitting him a little bit, which even when I played, I didn't like getting hit. I was stupid enough to stay in there, but like I'm not sure Nico. He's a young guy, and I'm not sure he likes being hit right now. And if you can kind of rattle him a little bit, he's totally different.
Okay, we got to stop there. Shortest segment in a while. When we come back, Kelly, it will be our brilliance and stat of the day. Not.
Need help.
And then we'll get a preview of tonight's Belmont Lipscomb game over at Allen Arena. So stick around. We got plenty more coming on 94.9 The Fan. Star Physical Therapy was established in 1997 with one great mission: to serve. If you're hurting, don't wait to receive physical therapy. You don't need a referral to see their physical therapist, and early morning and evening appointments are available. Make the call to 615-673-1420 and get rid of that pain. Star Physical Therapy, the official health provider of Football Friday.
Convenience and value, 2 words that we expect when we do business. Our goal at JHA Company is to deliver just that, both to our school partners and to our customers. Whether you're purchasing photos, yearbooks, class jewelry, letter jackets, school spirit wear, or senior graduation products, we strive to make the experience easy, convenient, and cost-effective. Find out more at jhacompany.com or call 615-867-6345 for more information. JHA, one source, one company. Senior graduation products, we strive to make the experience easy, convenient, and cost-effective. Find out more at jhacompany.com or call 615-867-6345 for more information. JHA, one source, one company.
Evan, Canty, and Michelle are unsportsmanlike.
Hear me clearly. The Bengals' season is over. They are not making the playoffs. Why do we want to keep hoping against hope? They're not a good football team. They're 4-6, and the only 4 wins they got are against teams that have 2 wins. They're not good. The Bengals aren't making the playoffs. It's over.
Evan, Canty, and Michelle are unsportsmanlike.
I don't think we're being fair to the Eagles. Other teams around the league have lost games that they're not supposed to lose. I have a tough time not giving a team credit that was dealing with all of the Sirianni turmoil. The fact that even a week ago we thought, oh, could he be gone if they lost the Jaguars? I'm just going to give them a little bit more credit than you guys are.
Unsportsmanlike. Weekday morning starting at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN2. You can't miss a moment with Greeny.
Caleb Williams wanted to go to Washington and didn't want to go to Chicago. Now you're seeing why. This thing is a disaster because everyone saw it coming. If you were a quarterback and you had all the talent in the world, would you want to go pay for Matt Eberflus and Shane Waldron for a franchise that has not developed a quarterback in literally 100 years? No, you would not. And so now they're getting exactly what you saw coming.
Your sports live here. WBUZ HD3 Laverne. All around the world on the Game Nashville app. We are the Game Nashville Sports Network. ESPN 94.9. The Fan. A Cromwell media station.
It's the George Plaster Show. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
As we slowly bring you back into the George Plaster Show, we've got a big one tonight. Battle of the Boulevard. Lipscomb and Belmont will preview that matchup coming up. But first, it's time for Stat of the Day, brought to you by Apple Collision Centers. You can find them in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, or Gallatin, or give them a call, 615-754-9800, or log on to applecollisioncenters.com. All right, we're going NFL today. Before Sunday night, Jared Goff looked to be on track to break whose record for the best completion percentage in a season? Who holds that record?
Kelly, I believe at this moment that you and I are desperado.
In the water.
Oh my God!
I'm gonna say Drew Brees.
You know, let's think about that for a second, though. The person that would lead in percentage would be sort of a check down Charlie, and not a guy that would get the ball down the field a lot. True?
Drew Brees.
Okay.
Don't disrespect Drew Brees.
No, and you know what? If Kelly has been on a roll, show us Drew Brees.
How about it?
Hey, at a baby. Kelly.
He had over 70. Yeah, he had. I thought it was 71%, but now 74.4%. That's amazing.
What was your best completion percentage in a year in the NFL?
I think I was 67. I still I was telling somebody the other day. I was watching something or reading something where, with 10 games played, you can't have under 10 games. But with the Buffalo Bills, I'm still leading the Buffalo Bills record book with 67% completion percentage for a season, which is crazy to me. I just don't see how that's holding up.
And go back to that, because it wasn't all check down Charlie with Drew Brees in New Orleans. There was a lot of get the ball down the field which to me makes that number even more impressive.
I remember when Drew Brees, they were having problems because they weren't sure. It's like a Will Levis situation. They weren't sure that Drew Brees was the guy in San Diego, and he started off and he was really sketchy and he was turning the ball over. They weren't sure he was the guy, and then all of a sudden, man, that guy just started flourishing and he started completing passes and winning games, and the rest is history.
Okay, here's the backstory that a lot of people forget. The Miami Dolphins flunked him in a physical.
Yeah.
And their head coach at the time was Nicholas Saban.
Yeah, and he was pissed.
Yeah, and that probably led to
contributed.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide, that's correct.
Okay, Billy, as we welcome everybody into hour number 2 of the show, this for the next couple of days, not at the Fordyce Center in Bellevue, but at our respective campuses, so to speak. Yeah. Why don't you intro our next guest, because you work with him an awful lot?
Yeah, Joey Dwyer. He covers local college basketball. He's just now started with Hoops HQ, a national site, but he also covers college hoops locally for Main Street Media as well. Joey, what's going on?
Billy Derrick, no Vandy sports mention?
Well, we can talk a little Vandy, I guess, but we've got you on to talk about tonight's Battle of the Boulevard. And I like how you tweeted earlier today, Nashville's biggest basketball rivalry. Tell us about this matchup tonight. And I know you've talked to a lot of people about the history of this matchup and how important it is to this area.
Yeah, I think it's really important. I think it's one of college basketball's most underrated rivalries. I think it's only 2.7 miles from Curb Event Center to Allen Arena, and the students are bought in. And this year, I think, is a pretty interesting installment of it as well. I think it's almost a crossroads in the rivalry of some sort. Lipscomb and Belmont the last 2 years. 2 matchups decided by 2 total points. Lipscomb won it on a buzzer beater at Allen Arena 2 years ago. Belmont won it last year on a game winner by Jacoby Gillespie late in the clock, and Lipscomb goes down and gets blocked. So it's an interesting predicament. Belmont's won 18 out of the last 21, but you feel like Lipscomb's starting to maybe push back a little bit. They're 5.5-point favorites tonight, and I think have a better roster on paper, but Belmont, I think, looked really formidable Friday against Furman. Didn't look so great in their opener against Maryville, but man, if that team that played Furman shows up at Allen Arena, then I think Lipscomb's going to have a hard time beating them. So I'm really interested in tonight just to see how this rivalry has shifted. Belmont's obviously got the resources and everything along those lines, but Lipscomb has put up a fight over the years, and you almost throw everything out the window when these two teams get together because it's always close and it's always just about who knows how to win more, who makes the play late, and I think that's what tonight's going to come down to.
So, Joey, these are 2 schools that in the new world order of college athletics get ripped apart. Belmont lost their top 3 players, and then they have to go raid a lower level to try to make up for it. What about Lipscomb? Yeah,
Lipscomb, I think, lost a lot, but also retained more than you would think. They retained their starting point guard, who was at the top of the country in assist to turnover ratio last year with Joe Anderson. Will Pruitt came back for a 5th year. I think he could have gone a lot of places and made a lot of money doing so. Jacob Ognosevich the same way. This last year with an injury, and if Lipscomb has him last year, I think they're probably a tournament team. They retained a lot, and they also retained Dylan Faulkner, their center, who missed the first 2 games, but is an athletic freak, probably the best athlete that Lenny Acuff has ever had. And I think those 4 are kind of the core group, and then they've got guys who seem to know their roles. I'm a little iffy on their transfer class at this point. I don't know if it's quite as great as I initially thought, but I think they've got a group that really does have some benefits of retention to it. Belmont is almost entirely new, although I think their transfer class is better than Lipscomb's. But like you said, they lost Malik Dia, they lost Jacoby Gillespie, lost Cade Tyson, all guys who were making a lot of money to play at Power 5. So it is an interesting dynamic. These schools are just getting completely rated year in and year out, and there's not a whole lot they can do about it. They can preach their culture and everything along those lines, which I think worked for Lipscomb a little bit, but I would say Belmont's got a pretty strong culture too. But George, that didn't really matter last year.
How does Belmont try to match up with Ognosevich? And I hope I've said that right.
Yeah, Jacob Ognosovich. I think Jonathan Pierre, the Memphis transfer, is an interesting body that they can throw at him. I think they do have a good bit of mid front court depth, like three to four guys. I think Brigham Rogers is probably going to have to guard Dylan Faulkner or Charlie Williams, whoever's playing the 5 for Lipscomb. But Jonathan Pierre is a Memphis transfer, 6'7", isn't quite as built out as Jacob Ognosovich, and he's done things to guys who are better defenders than Pierre. But I think that's where you start, and then I mean, he's a tough guy to defend. He's really efficient, one of the most efficient players in the country. He can really step out and shoot it. He's physical with his back to the basket. He's a tough cover, and I think as a guy that a lot of Power 5 schools are going to be after in the spring. He thought he owed Lenny Acuff one more year, and I think tonight would be a big benefit of him coming back, because I think he's going to be the focal point for Lipscomb offensively. And George, honestly, I think a lot of coaches are searching for the answer to that question that you just asked me.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. Joey, before either you or Billy were born, the old Nashville Athletic Club took up as a big promotion, and they got Belmont to agree to give up the home game. They played over at Vandy. And I'll never forget, they had the women's game first and then the guys' game. And I'll never forget, I got handed a note to announce that Memorial Gym at 15,500 was a complete sellout. It was an incredible night. My buddy, the late Rick Region, did a lot of the legwork on that deal. What's the interest level now between the two schools?
I think it's still pretty high. I don't know if it's ever going to get back to that level, just because there's so much more to do in Nashville. And I think even a little bit the schools have kind of strayed from their identities a little bit. But I would say there's a pretty high level of interest just being around the campuses. And this is the game everybody's got circled on their calendar, right? It's like, this is one of college basketball's rare November games that's almost season defining in a way. Like, a lot of people are not looking at Lipscomb and saying, do you win 20 games? It's, did you beat Belmont? And if Belmont makes the tournament and loses to Lipscomb, it's still over their heads. Like, man, you guys lost to Lipscomb. There's a lot of bragging rights here. And I think maybe even more so than the tournament, the perception is this makes a successful season for a section of each fan base. And that's such a huge thing and something that's so rare in college athletics these days. It doesn't make or break their season, but if you lose this game, there's almost a dark cloud over you the rest of the way, no matter what happens.
Kelly, your witness.
Joey, so you talked, if you look back, Belmont's had kind of their run, a huge run against Lipscomb here of late. And you talked about last year, I think Lipscomb got beat by 1 point, and then the year before, Lipscomb won by 1 point. But it seems to me, being around the program, obviously my daughter playing there, but it seems to me like Lenny Acuff is kind of starting to establish himself, and I don't know. It's obviously going in the right direction. He's getting some really good players, but you see them kind of dominating or kind of a back and forth thing with Belmont the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think Belmont probably has a roster that isn't quite comparable to what they've had the last couple of years. Last year they had 3 guys who transferred to big-time Power 5 schools. The year before they had a first-round pick on their team. I think this is maybe where the tide could turn a little bit. It's a huge opportunity for Lipscomb to maybe do that. I also wonder, though, what does Lipscomb's roster look like in the future? This is a team that has a lot of guys who, as I'm sure you know, are going to leave after this year. Joe Anderson has to go. Will Pruitt has to go. I would guess Jacob Ognosovich goes somewhere. They're going to lose a lot of their core, and they're going to have to reset. Maybe they can get a great transfer class next year. But if Lipscomb wants to kind of turn the tide of the rivalry, it's got to be tonight. I think Belmont has a lot of the resources, has a lot of the buzz being in the NBC, but Lipscomb, I think, still does have a chance here, obviously favored. How much of a chance to do that long term, I'm not sure. But, Kelly, last year you asked me a hardball for my first question. I think this one's a little easier. Last year you asked me, you almost got me in trouble saying, is Lenny or Casey a better coach? So I appreciate you letting me off the hook a little bit for the first one this year.
What do you see, my last thing, what do you see Lipscomb? How do you see them in the ASUN this year? Because the ASUN is a pretty good conference. And how do you see them stacking up against the rest of the teams in the ASUN this year? Because I think they got a really good chance to win this thing this year.
They certainly do. And I think Lenny Acuff has been a little hesitant to say that just because of the nature of the ASUN tournament. Last year, you get them playing one of their worst games and they lose as a result of it, even though the bracket cleared for them. I do think that they will be the odds-on favorite when we head into tournament week. But I also think, like Lenny Acuff has told me a few times, there's always a snake laying in the grass somewhere, and I think we started to see that snake is North Florida. They got 2 Power 5 wins last week. Be interesting to see what they do against Georgia tonight. I think that's a game they could win as well. So there's good teams in this league. Austin Peay is another really good one. But Lipscomb's the most experienced. It's had guys who have played in that tournament, guys who kind of are on a mission after what happened to them last year. Probably one of the more heartbreaking losses in program history happened in that ASUN tournament game. So Lipscomb's going to be ready to go. And I think at this point, you consider to be the odds-on favorite. It's just, can they defend enough? And, man, you just got to get a little lucky to win a tournament like that, too. That's kind of my big thing is I'm not sure that they can defend enough to win 3 or 4 games in a row. And I'm not sure that they can get quite as lucky as you need to be. But I do think with any team you have questions like that, I think I have the least questions about Lipscomb of any team in the league.
All right, Joey, last thing here. We got to give the people what they want. They want your prediction on this game. Feels like everything's turning in Lipscomb's favor. It's at home at Allen Arena. They're 6.5-point favorites. Who you got tonight?
It's for the people.
For the people. I think last year was interesting to me just because Belmont had the star power. I think Lipscomb's got a better roster this year. Lipscomb's playing at home. I would have to say Lipscomb wins this game, but 6 of the last 13 have been decided by a play near or close to the buzzer. One of them was our guy Taylor Barnett, who hit the shot. So I'm going to assume Lipscomb probably finds a way to win tonight. They've been together for longer. They have a lot of guys who have played in these games before and had a bad taste in their mouth from last year, and it's at home. I would say everything points towards Lipscomb winning this game, but you also look at Belmont, what they did against Furman on Friday. If they play like that, they're a really hard team to beat. Furman, I think, is a better team than Lipscomb, and I'm interested to see what it looks like tonight in front of the Allen Arena crowd, which I expect to be sold out.
Really?
Boom.
Nice.
I think it's going to be close.
Okay. Well, we'll see. Joey, thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank y'all for having me. We'd love to come on again.
Joey Dwyer giving us the preview of Lipscomb and Belmont tonight, 7 o'clock at Allen Arena. After the break, Billy will reveal the 26 teams that still have a chance to make the playoff. Now, do I believe 26? Not really. But the guy that put it out there makes a pretty compelling case. We'll explain it next on 94.9 The Fan.
It was the most horrible experience that any mother could ever go through. I knew that I needed to get help. My friend, she immediately said, "You need to call Bart Durham." And you guys were there within an hour. You guys are like family for us.
Yeah, sure is nice to connect with the people that you're doing your best to help.
Here's Officer Garen Hoskins for the Metro Nashville Police Department.
The Metro Nashville Police Department is on the forefront of policing in this century, and I'm glad I'm a part of it. I'm glad I get to find other good officers, other future good officers. And if you're watching today, or you yourself or someone you happen to know is interested, join MNPD.com. Feel free to reach out to us because we need good officers, and it's a great city to work for.
Are you concerned about the Medicare Part D changes for 2025? Believe me, you're not alone. You need to contact Pancoast Benefits. They'll make the changes clear and easy to understand. Trust Pancoast to guide you through it all. Their knowledgeable team is here to help you understand the updates and make informed decisions about your Medicare coverage. Don't navigate these changes alone. Call Pancoast Benefits today at 615-292-3400 and choose option 3, or visit pancoastbenefits.com. That's 615-292-3400 and choose option 3. It's easy to say good things about the folks at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers. Number one, I trust them with something that's near and dear to me, the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. But more importantly, I see the fun people have. They enjoy the bowling, they enjoy the camaraderie, and you will too. Come by any of their locations and get ready to have some fun.
Convenience and value, 2 words that we expect when we do business. Our goal at JHA Company is to deliver just that, both to our school partners and to our customers. Whether you're purchasing photos, yearbooks, class jewelry, letter jackets, school spirit wear, or senior graduation products, we strive to make the experience easy, convenient, and cost-effective. Find out more at jhacompany.com or call 615-867-6345 for more information. JHA. One source, one company. One company.
This is Kevin Ingram. Join us Wednesday night for Vanderbilt men's basketball against California. Tim Thompson and I will have all the action. Pregame starts at 6:30.
Your sports live here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. It's the George Plaster Show. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
Okay, I'm told we have breaking news. Is it, Billy, is it the end of the world?
No, it's not the end of the world, George.
Okay, what is it? Oh, do we get the sounder?
According to On3 Sports on Twitter, Vanderbilt quarterback Diego Pavia's temporary restraining order against the NCAA has been denied. Pavia argued he would suffer irreparable harm if he did not know his status before the transfer portal opens on December 9th. So it's looking like Diego Pavia has 3 games left in the black and gold.
Okay, with that in mind, tomorrow on the show, prominent Nashville attorney Jack Waddy, who among his biggest cases in his legal world was defending me against humanity, I guess. Anyway, Jack's going to join us at 4:00 to kind of talk about either the merits or the lack thereof as Pavia seeks to get another year on the college level. Look, the obvious stuff here, Diego Pavia, I'm hard-pressed to believe will end up playing in the NFL. Now, I do think the Canadian Football League is a perfect option for him. But if he gets granted an extra year, or as he requested 2, it's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $1 to $1.5 million a year in his pocket. You know, for that,
oh yeah,
maybe I'd sue somebody too.
Yeah, why not?
For
I mean,
that, you
why
gotta,
not?
for that, you got to try. You got to try it.
Yeah, and I'm told, although I don't have proof of this, that he is getting, shall we say, very cheap legal help. That might have a little bit of a black and gold tint to it. It's just what I've heard.
I'm
So
sure.
you're hold on a second. Let's rate Kelly's phone. Kelly, say a couple of things.
Are we good? Can you hear me?
You know what? This is the best. I was about to go with Afghanistan, but I think more like maybe Toronto, Cuyahoga County. I think you're definitely in the United States.
I thought we would be in Columbia at this point, man. I thought it was much better. We got to get this figured out, Billy. I mean, what are we doing?
You got to
Not
take
my
it slow.
fault.
This is a process, Kelly.
Baby steps.
Okay, all right.
Got to take
Sorry.
baby steps with you.
Okay, so we've gotten through the breaking news. We've gotten through Kelly's phone. Needs a new phone is what he needs, cheapskate. So, Billy, you uncovered a guy that put out a list of who he says are all of the eligible schools that truly have a chance to make the playoff. If you had asked me this, I would have said 15 to 18. He went with 26.
He went with 26, and he outlined that this morning at his story on On3. Ari Wasserman does a really good job. And, George, I've got a graphic. If you're watching this right now, you'll be able to see it on the podcast, on YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook. But I'm going to run through the 26 teams that he believes are still eligible to make the playoff in the
Billy,
Big Ten.
Hold on a second. Those are midget helmets.
Well, do your best to try to see it, George.
They're a little small. Kelly would go absolutely berserk because he
would.
There are a lot of red ones. Looks like a nice gold one. I see a green at the top. It's very color friendly. Okay, so run through the 26.
All right, starting in the Big Ten, Oregon, Indiana, Penn State, and Ohio State.
No Northwestern.
No Northwestern. Any objections there?
No.
Okay.
No.
Didn't think so. In the Big 12, it's where it gets interesting. He's got BYU, Iowa State, Kansas State, Colorado, and Arizona State still alive.
Arizona State, please.
Yeah, no, I don't think. I think Iowa State's already. I think they've already shown who they are too. They do this kind of every year. They start off good, and then they have a lapse, and then they lose a couple of games. I just don't think Iowa State's in there either.
Billy, how much of what he's going with is the concept of a tiebreaker that could throw who gets into the conference title game into total crazy land?
That's exactly what he's basing it off of. He's basing it off of those tiebreakers who can get into the conference title game, and if they win, they would have a spot in the playoff. And the Big 12 is a jumbled mess. Iowa State still has to play Kansas State in the last week of the season, and so that could be a game. But whoever wins that, you're looking at the team that could potentially win the Big 12. So I think that's why Iowa State, he thinks, is still alive. But, K-State, they're a team you could probably compare to Iowa State right now. They lost to Houston a couple of weeks back. So that Iowa State K-State game, you don't want to say elimination game, but whoever wins that has the upper hand in the Big 12. Also, as we move on in the SEC, he's got Texas A&M, Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, Alabama, Ole Miss, and Missouri.
Okay, let me ask a couple of questions. Is A&M's path as simple as beat Texas and you go to the title game?
Maybe.
It's never that simple, but that's what they've got to do. You do that, you control, you control what you can control. But who knows once you get to the SEC title, what it's going to look like. But A&M's loss to South Carolina, that's an eye test, thing that I think hurts them a lot.
But we're also talking out that South Carolina's better than everybody thought they were.
Absolutely.
I absolutely believe that. Now, what is Missouri's path?
Well, Missouri plays in South Carolina, in Columbia this weekend, so they beat Missouri, and of course they've got to win out. But they could be a part of that team, that group that gets into. If they win out, a lot of chaos happens. Missouri could be eligible to make the SEC title.
Well, they're not going anywhere without Brady Cook. Bless his heart. Drew Pine is an absolute train wreck as their backup quarterback, and you say, okay, they scored 30 against Oklahoma. Don't let that fool you. A bunch of it was their defense that set up their offense.
Yep. Yeah, Missouri doesn't look like a playoff team right now. I would also argue, a couple of teams obviously are really teetering in the SEC. A&M, Georgia, and Tennessee, I think. I mean, would y'all agree that Texas, Alabama, and Ole Miss are pretty steady? Texas has to beat A&M, but I'm worried about Tennessee and Georgia. I still think one of those two gets in, but they got to beat each other. Whoever wins that game this weekend is likely in the playoff.
The Texas.
George, I'm going to say it for the 15th time, though. Alabama does not want to go to the SEC championship game. I promise you. Because the way they played the other night, if they can sneak in and get in, they got a shot. But if they have to play in that SEC title game and they don't play like they did the other night against Texas, all bets are off.
And I'll go with one other thing. Texas A&M will be a bloodbath. Whoever, if one of those two teams has to play a week later in the SEC title game, that might not work out well.
And I want to ask this question too: if Texas A&M does beat Texas, what does that do? Because we're just automatically thinking Texas is going to be in, but what does that do to all the tiebreakers?
I don't have a clue. Look, and if you think you're confused now, read the list of tiebreakers that the SEC put out there. You'll need an agronomist or a God only knows what to figure it out.
Seriously.
Oh, it's absolutely insane.
Yeah, head-to-head competition, record against all common conference opponents, record against highest placed common conference opponent in the conference standings, cumulative conference winning percentage, capped relative total scoring margin, random draw of the tied teams.
Good Lord, by the time you're finished with that, you're ready to fall asleep. The truth of it is they shouldn't have ever gone away from divisions.
Amen.
I agree.
Moving on to the ACC, you've got 3 teams still alive: Miami, SMU, and Clemson. Obviously, Miami.
Hard to argue any of that.
Yeah. And then
now you've got 7 group of 5s, and I'm trying to think. For me, I can only really think of 3, but run through them.
Well, Notre Dame is included here in the independent group of 5, the other teams. So Notre Dame, they've got Virginia, they host Army, and then they're at USC. They win out, they're in. It's that simple. Ari's got 6 group of 5 teams that he thinks are still eligible: Boise State, UNLV, Army, Tulane, Washington State, who is in no conference, and then Louisiana.
Louisiana what?
The Louisiana Raging Cajuns.
Oh, good
Raging
Lord.
Cajuns, baby.
They're dead though. I mean,
they need to go to the Camellia Bowl.
The Poulon Weed Eater, George.
Oh, that was always a good one. It's always good to get your grass cut at the bowl game. So, look, I don't think for a minute this is going to happen, but I'm going to keep saying it. If you think it's chaos now, let Army beat Notre Dame.
It ain't happening.
I'm like Billy, though. I don't think that's ever going to happen, but what if?
I mean, look, I don't think it's going to happen either.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine Army in the first 12-team playoff instead of Notre Dame?
That would be nuts. Crazy. Okay, let's do this. That's really interesting stuff. 26 that are still in somebody's mind alive to talk about it. And you think about back when we had the BCS, where you had no more than 4 to 6 schools at the most. To me, this is what's making this such a fun football season, is that we can throw 26 teams out in the middle of November and say, something short of a crash, and they could get in.
That's awesome.
Billy, how long do you think before they expand this thing? You think they'll ever expand it?
I think sooner rather than later.
I never thought they would go to 12. I thought they would go to 8. 12 is awesome. This is going to be a television bonanza, is what it's going to be. Okay, yesterday we didn't give people enough time on the phones or in the chat rooms with their questions and comments. I'm going to give you a little bit more today. We'll go to this break early. Phone lines, 615-553-0933. Again, 615-553-0933. Billy, how can they text?
Chat room to the right of the YouTube stream, wherever you're watching. Also, Twitter and Facebook. You can type them in right there. We've got a lot of comments so far. We'll get to those. Keep the comments flowing, whether it's college football playoff, the Battle of the Boulevard tonight, Titans, Preds, whatever you want. I'll see them, and we'd love to hear from you.
Okay, this is 94.9, The Fan.
You were in a crash.
Yeah.
Your kids were in the car with you.
We're very lucky to even be telling this story to you. Nikki treated us like family, and she was very caring and loving, and I'm just so grateful for that. She was somebody I could trust, and being a veteran, that's so important to me. My kids are going to have a better life now because I don't have to worry about those expenses that we were out. Your family has really created a legacy of trust, and I would recommend you to anyone.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
Venture Express has been helping people in this area for more than 40 years. They're headquartered in Murfreesboro with over 30 years of dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com.
You know, starting to save for your future doesn't have to be difficult. Let Wilson Bank and Trust help tone up your financial goals this year. Our certificates of deposits or CDs can help your money work harder with our competitive rates, earning you more than ever before. WBT checking options allow you to earn rewards you can really use, like a high interest rate or cash back on check card purchases when you meet some e-banking qualifications. Visit your closest Wilson Bank and Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC.
You thought you were on your way.
Your sports live here.
On ESPN 94.9.
And the Game Nashville Sports Network. It's the George Plaster Show. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
Well, the music in the background, Kelly, is aimed at you. You can check out anytime you want, but you can never leave.
I've been trying to leave, but I don't think it's a fireable offense.
Where are you headed?
I'm heading down to Nashville again tonight. I got something to do down there.
You are a busy man. Let's take some phone calls, and we'll do some texts. We'll kind of go back and forth. We'll start on the phones. Tim in Old Hickory, welcome into 94.9 The Fan.
Guys, how are y'all tonight? Good to
We're
like
good.
the show. Hey, quick question. It doesn't seem like anybody's concerned about Texas and their lack of strength of schedule. Let's say they lose to A&M. How does Texas get in when their best win is Vanderbilt? And I guess I don't know if Vanderbilt was ranked when they played them, but then they would have lost to the only 2 ranked teams they played. I would think. Now, I know politically that's probably not right, but it doesn't seem like to me Texas should get in if they're 10-2 and their losses are to Georgia and A&M. What do y'all think? Have a good night.
Well, hey, hold on with us for a second, if you will. Kelly, this is one of the underrated things that the committee has got to, when they get in the room and they start trying to dissect, the public has already, gone on Indiana's schedule sucks. Honestly, Texas's has not been all that much better.
Man, he's brought up a really good point, George, but I think it was the preseason hype, and I think they, whether they played anybody or not, they kind of lived up to it, and everybody just expect the Texas brand, bringing all their fans to the game. I just think that everybody just expects them to be in the consideration for this playoff, even if they lose the SEC title game, and I think he's correct. Because you do look at their strength of schedule, and it's not that great. But still, with all the talk that happened before the season, I think everybody just thinks it's a lock that Texas is going to get in.
Yeah, Texas, you're right, Kelly. They're a team that they have sort of ridden all that preseason hype. And now they're, they might only have one loss, but they lose to A&M. I'm kind of with Tim. It's going to be up in the air for the Longhorn fans.
Well, can I speak the unspeakable? They better look out for Arkansas Saturday.
Yep.
Yeah.
A lot of people in the SEC will be calling the Hogs
because that kicks Texas out.
Yeah, it probably does. Billy, give me a text one, and then we'll go back to the phones.
Well, going back to the very beginning, a little NFL here from Trevor on YouTube. Thoughts on the Chiefs going undefeated this season?
Ain't happening. Kelly, they are playing on a razor's edge, and if Patrick Mahomes was not as great as he is, they are asking so much out of that guy to pull their chestnuts out of the fire every week. In my mind, there is no way they go undefeated.
Yeah, I don't see them going undefeated. I mean, it's only happened once. So the New England Patriots did it when I was still playing, but they lost in the Super Bowl. So that's just so hard to do. But I've talked about the mentality of the Titans, about how they're in that kind of loser mentality right now. But you look at Kansas City, it's just like the other day. They were setting up for pretty much it wasn't a chip shot, but for an NFL kicker, it pretty much is a chip shot from where he was, and they blocked the thing. So they just got this unbelievable confidence in themselves that no matter what it takes, if we have to run the ball all game, if we have to stop somebody on the 1 yard line, if we have to block a kick, that's what our belief is. And belief, I've told y'all this over and over again, it goes a long way. And that's where Kansas City is. I do not think they'll go undefeated all year, but it's hard to beat those guys with the belief that they have about winning.
The thing that amazes me is they keep heaping more and more pressure on Patrick Mahomes, and it doesn't bother him at all. I have never seen anything like it. It's incredible.
Oh, he's incredible, man. He knows how to work the pocket. He can take off running, which we've talked about. I really don't like, but he knows when to do it. He's kind of like Russell Wilson. They don't take off running, but if they see an opportunity where they got a shot too, that make you pay. And that's man, you're right. They put a lot on him, but golly, you talking about making plays. You talking about keeping a team in the game. And the game, you just thought the other day the way it was going, that they're going to lose this game, and then lo and behold, they pull ahead and then they block the kick at the end. It's just unbelievable what they're doing right now.
Eric, you are up next on 94.9 The Fan.
Hey, George, I'm glad you're doing this again because I definitely got to talk about the Cowboys and their situation right now because you know me growing up a Cowboys fan. And this Dallas reminds me of the old TV series Dallas. And, of course, you remember that old JR and Jock and Miss Ellie and all that.
J.R. Ewing.
Jerry Jones. Yeah. And I think of Jerry Jones as Jock. I think of Dak Prescott as Bobby. I think of Michael Parsons as JR. And, of course, I think of Mike McCarthy's Cliff Barnes. I mean, it's just you can't just believe this whole just sideshow, the circus that's down there. I mean, still don't know what to make of the Micah Parsons. How he threw, he says he wasn't trying to throw Mike McCarthy under the bus. Maybe he was,
and that's such a load of crap. I mean, look,
maybe
for him to think we're going to buy that, he just thinks we're stupid.
Yeah. You're right. And the whole thing with CeeDee Lamb saying, "Well, we need curtains to block out the sun." Are you kidding me? That's saying it's been like that for years. And and Jerry Jones not knowing as a GM, not knowing how to manage the cap, he could have paid Dak and CD earlier. And now there's rumors that them talk about now probably they're going to try and trade Micah Parsons to get assets, and maybe Deion Sanders be the next head coach, which I don't buy because I don't think he wants the NFL job. I don't think he wants to do that. It's just, as a fan of that team, it is just so frustrating to see what they're going through. But Jerry Jones deserves it because he just spends so much time talking to the media, which I wish he would not do. I guess as owner, he wants to do that. But as long as he's the GM, they'll never get to and win another Super Bowl. This is just so frustrating with the team. George, I'll get off and let you comment.
No, hold on, Eric. Hold on. So you said one thing we got to talk about. Kelly.
Okay.
Kelly, are you there?
I'm here. Yes, sir.
Okay. Do we honestly believe that when Jerry Jones picks up the phone and calls Deion and says, "Hey, I want you to coach the Cowboys," that Deion says, "Oh, no, I'm staying at Colorado"? I don't believe that.
I'm not sure I believe it either. It's another situation where he can kind of control the situation with his son. But I've always told people this, even Coach Donnelly used to tell me this: if you have your son in your program, your son better be the best in the room at his position, and Shedeur Sanders is that. Probably going to be the number one pick. And I can see that happening. I just don't know, though. I bring up this all the time, George, when just think about if Jerry Jones wouldn't have meddled with Jimmy Johnson and allowed Jimmy Johnson to keep doing what he wanted to do. How many Super Bowls could that guy have won at that place? It's always – I've never been around an owner that meddles. When an owner meddles, they're not very good. When the owner allows people to do their job that he hired and not micromanage them, they do really well. But it goes back to Jerry Jones wants to be the reason that the Cowboys are successful, and he meddles too much. And I just don't see them ever getting to the point of the Jimmy Johnson era. I really don't. I don't see them getting there because he wants to be the reason that they win games, and he makes bad decisions. I love Dak Prescott. I really do. But I just don't know if he's the guy to get him over the top.
Jerry is the reason for the season.
Well, George, of course, you've got Thanksgiving Day with the Kettle game, and that's probably that and the game at Carolina. The game against the Giants on Turkey Day and the game at Carolina will probably be the only two games left they'll be favored in. The rest of them, they're going to be huge underdogs, and those may be the only two games they win.
You know,
you take care. We'll talk to you again soon.
Eric, remember this, and thank you for the call. I think it would be a lovely, really a seasonal thing for CeeDee Lamb to grab Jerry Jones and stuff him in that kettle. God, what a mess they have created. Billy, what do you got up there?
We got a bunch of comments rolling in. I'm going to rumble through some of these. John on YouTube says John Wilkerson needs to get the Tennessee play-by-play job.
He'll certainly be in the mix of it. I'm sure Mike Keith will be. Stan Cotton is a University of Tennessee grad who is the voice of Wake Forest and a good guy, good friend.
George says Castellanos, the Boston College quarterback, back from the update, he blew a massive lead against Louisville a few weeks ago, and he's an inconsistent thrower. That led to his benching.
Did not know that.
And let's see here. Heath on YouTube says independent teams being allowed to get in the playoff is amazing. Well, Notre Dame's still an independent, so.
Oh, here we go, Kelly.
We're not.
It's time now for our.
Nobody cares about Notre Dame, Billy. Good gracious.
Time now for Catholicism moment. Sponsored by
Good
Billy
gracious.
Derrick.
Hey, they're going to beat. They're going to beat. They've already beat Navy. They're going to beat Army probably. They don't. I don't know if they have Air Force on the schedule. USC sucks. They're going to be in the playoffs, and then they're going to play one game and they'll be gone.
Kelly, you can save it.
And then after that, we'll have the Grecian moment.
Yes. Last comment. I know we got one more call. John says, "I wish 94.9 reached to Charlotte, Tennessee." I don't know where Charlotte.
John, that's past my pay grade. I don't know what to tell you. But there are other ways to listen to us. Billy, give us one of those.
Yeah, the 94.9, the fan app. I think it's called the Game Nashville app. Actually, you can get it wherever you get your apps. They're from the Apple Store, but also YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. So love to have you tune in there, John.
Don't ask me what any of that means. Frank and Smyrna, you are up next on 94.9 The Fan.
Good afternoon, guys. How we doing?
You got a cold, don't you?
Well, I'm down here in Florida, and when you have to sit inside a condo and work all day instead of enjoying God's beautiful warm sunshine, it might could get to you a little bit.
Poor baby, you've had it so rough.
Yeah, well, it's not all roses down here, but we're good. We're going to get by. I'll be back this weekend so I can go to the Titans game. Why, I don't know, but that's not why I called. George, you really brought up some good memories for me. You mentioned Lipscomb and Belmont playing in a Memorial Gym. I believe that must have been the late 80s. I was in no, I take that back. February of
1990. Yeah.
Yes, February of 1990. I was a senior in high school, and I remember going to that game, and I didn't know it at the time, but, the women's game was first up. And I remember me and my dad and some of my friends going to that game and sit on the next to the top row at 3F, and we're like, mercy. I'd never seen anything like that for a women's basketball game. And we knew the men were coming up. And for David Lipscomb, my future sister-in-law was on the team, and I didn't even know it at the time. And when I met my wife out at UT Martin, and her sister told me I played college basketball at Lipscomb, then I realized who she was. I said, yes, I saw you play at Memorial Gym. She goes, you were there that day. I said, I says, you know what? Yeah, she and I to this day still talk about it. What a neat time in Nashville that was. And I tell her, Gina, I'm convinced had Bridgestone Arena been there in the early 90s and that game been played there, I'm not sure they wouldn't have filled Bridgestone Arena up. That's how big a deal college basketball was in Nashville in the 80s and 90s, not so much now, unfortunately, or at least I don't think so.
And a group led by my buddy Rick Region, back then it was called the Nashville Athletic Club, and this was a big project of theirs, and they got Rick Byrd to agree to give up Belmont's home game to move it over to Vandy. And, I don't know, going into the day, they asked me to be the PA announcer, and I just remember looking around going, damn, this place is close to full. And then they hand me a note saying, announce it's sold out. And man, that was big stuff.
That's awesome.
That was big stuff.
It sure was. And it seems like that was a Saturday night, if I recall right. And and I want to say the next day LSU and Vandy played in the I think Shaquille O'Neal, Chris Jackson, all that was on that team. And that was the game where it was a Sunday afternoon game, and I got to meet Jim Valvano after the game. He was doing the color commentary for ABC at the time. So that's good memories, George.
Oh, those are great memories. I got to step in and run. Stay safe down there.
Absolutely. I'll be back this weekend. So we'll see you next week.
Plaster Bet of the Day is coming up next.
This is my buddy Stan Harrison from Apple Collision Centers. Recently, you've been talking to me about companies that have a fleet of trucks and they're always in need of repairs.
That's right, George. We understand that nobody likes to deal with the auto body repair process. We try to simplify that at our 3 convenient locations. We work with all major insurance companies. We help to ease the stress of the auto body repair process. We're located in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. If you need our services, please stop by and see us.
And how convenient that we have that in the background. Now, seriously, these are good folks. They do really good work. Give them a holler. Star Physical Therapy was established in 1997 with one great mission: to serve. If you're hurting, don't wait to receive physical therapy. You don't need a referral to see their physical therapist, and early morning and evening appointments are available. Make the call to 615-673-1420 and get rid of that pain. Star Physical Therapy, the official health provider of Football Friday.
Process. We're located in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. If you need our services, please stop by and see us.
And how convenient that we have that in the background. Now, seriously, these are good folks. They do really good work. Give them a holler.
Evan Canty and Michelle are unsportsmanlike.
Hear me clearly. The Bengals' season is over. They are not making the playoffs. Why do we want to keep hoping against hope? They're not a good football team. They're 4-6, and the only 4 wins they got are against teams that have 2 wins. They're not good. The Bengals aren't making the playoffs. It's over.
Evan Canty and Michelle are unsportsmanlike.
I don't think we're being fair to the Eagles. Other teams around the league have lost games that they're not supposed to lose. I have a tough time not giving a team credit that was dealing with all of the Sirianni turmoil. The fact that even a week ago we thought, oh, could he be gone if they lost the Jaguars? I'm just going to give them a little bit more credit than you guys are.
Unsportsmanlike. Weekday morning starting at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN.
It's the George Plaster Show. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
Big night of college hoops. Getting warmed up tonight, 5:30. Here in about 30 minutes, Michigan State and Kansas. And then at 8 o'clock, Duke and Kentucky, part of the Champions Classic. The college football playoff rankings reveal will be in between those 2 games. So keep it locked on ESPN tonight. Also, if you're not going to the game over at Allen Arena, Belmont and Lipscomb, that'll be on ESPN Plus at 7 o'clock. And you got a few Maction games. So we'll see where George is going with Bet of the Day, brought to you by Bart Durham Injury Law. Let's check out what happened last night.
Yeah.
The Rams?
Very disappointed.
What happened to the Rams?
I don't know. They brought nothing to the table. I don't
think they're very good, George. I think they're okay, but I just don't think they're very good. I think they're missing Aaron Donald on defense. He was a huge disruptor, and I think he was one of the key cogs, obviously, to that wheel. I just don't think they're very good.
Okay, I'm going to lay a stat on you before I pick tonight's winner. Joe Buck threw this out last night. 71% of field goal attempts of 50 yards or longer are good this year. Yeah. 71%. It is time to shrink the goalpost. Make them look like that.
The Rams attempted, that kicker from the Rams attempted like 3 of over 50. Every time I looked at the TV, he was attempting another 50-yarder.
When I was growing up, if it got much past 52, it was a miracle. Now, it's got to be 65 before anybody blinks an eye. NFL's got to do something about it. It's gotten too easy. These guys have gotten too good. Okay, Billy.
Agree, when they go to the combine, it's unbelievable what they put those guys through too. They're really good.
Yeah, turbo. We're going Bowling Green tonight. We're going MAC.
And you know why we're going MAC?
Because you never go back.
Once you go MAC, you can never go back. If you want to see some empty seats, you watch those MAC games tonight. There will be sections available for you to purchase. I'm taking the Bowling Green Falcons with their ugly orange and brown uniforms.
Wow.
Hey, Bowling Green's a good team. They got an NFL tight end and a really good quarterback in Connor Basilak. Watch out for Bowling Green.
Billy, that's why I'm taking them. Okay.
Smart man.
That's why I'm over 500 for the year.
But you didn't want to go out on the limb and take Central Michigan plus 15 against Toledo.
No, I did not. No, absolutely not. We're done. Kelly, behave. Get a new phone.
I've got my phone's good, George.
Yeah, it does sound good now. It sounds good. It sounds like you're in the United States, and that's good. Billy, see you tomorrow as well.
See y'all.
Tomorrow, an attorney to tell us his thoughts on Diego Pavia's lawsuit. This is 94.9, The Fan.